In the world of music and entertainment, there are stars who shine brightly, leaving an incredible mark on the industry. Aaliyah was one of those stars, but tragically her light was extinguished far too soon. Today we dive into the captivating story of Aaliyah, a rising star who met a tragic end at the age of 22. Get ready to uncover the mysteries surrounding her final moments and the conspiracy theories that still linger. This is the untold story of Aaliyah's final journey. Aaliyah, a renowned singer, actress, model, and fashion icon during the 1990s and early 2000s, met a tragic end at the age of 22 in a private jet crash in the Bahamas. Despite her young age, she had already achieved significant accomplishments in her career. She starred in 3 movies, although she couldn't complete the final one due to her untimely passing. In music, she released 3 studio albums, with her last one debuting at number 2 on the Billboard charts in the summer of 2001. One of the singles from the album was titled Rock the Boat. Sadly, while returning from a video shoot for that song, Aaliyah and 8 other passengers lost their lives in a private plane crash, abruptly ending their lives and extinguishing the bright futures that awaited the rising star. Now, let's explore the filming process of Rock the Boat and dive into the crash itself. We'll initially examine the surface level information that was made public before diving deeper into the classified details and the various conspiracy theories surrounding the accident. Our objective is to gain a comprehensive understanding of the events that unfolded. On August 25th, 2001, 9 individuals, each with their own stories, dreams, aspirations, and achievements, and family who loved them, tragically lost their lives. Aaliyah, at the age of 22, was the youngest victim of the ill-fated jet. One of the central figures in this tragedy is Luis Morales. It is important to note that this segment is not meant to vilify him, but rather to provide an account of the events. Luis Antonio Morales III was born on June 22nd, 1971 in Rio Perez, Puerto Rico. Coming from a family with a passion for aviation, Morales' grandfather, a commercial pilot, introduced him to flying at a young age. At 17, Morales began formal flight training at the ISA Grand Flying School and later attended the University of Dayton in Ohio. However, he temporarily set aside his dreams to assist his father in managing 4 McDonald's restaurants in Puerto Rico. Eventually, the family sold the restaurants in 1998. During this time, Morales worked part-time as a charter plane pilot to accumulate flight hours required for his pilot license. In February 2000, Morales informed his father that he was finally pursuing his passion for flying, which brought him immense happiness. According to his sister Vivian, he considered flying a safe endeavor and avoiding taking unnecessary risks. However, Morales had a questionable level of integrity and frequently resorted to shortcuts to achieve his goals. He deceitfully obtained his FFA license by fabricating flight logs, claiming hundreds of flight hours that he never actually flew. In October 2000, he was rejected by Tropic Air due to his lack of experience. Desperate to find opportunities, Morales was arrested the following month by Fort Lauderdale police when he attempted to return stolen aviation parts worth $345 to a local distributor. The store employee, suspicious of the transactions, alerted the authorities, who were investigating a series of airplane burglaries. Morales faced charges of dealing in stolen property and grand theft. Detectives found evidence linking him to the burglaries. Victims who unknowingly bought the stolen parts. Later in 2001, Morales landed a job with Golden Airlines, but encountered legal trouble once again. On July 7th, he was arrested for drug possession and driving on a suspended license during a traffic stop. The deputies discovered cocaine and drug paraphernalia in Morales' car. Morales claimed that he was in the area to purchase cocaine for a friend. On August 13, just 12 days before the crash, Morales pleaded no contest to charges of cocaine possession, stealing and stolen property, and grand theft. He received a 3-year probation sentence. Despite his legal issues and terminations from Golden Airlines, Morales managed to secure a position as a pilot with Black Hawk International Airways on August 20th, 2001, merely 5 days before the fatal crash. On August 21st, Aaliyah made her final television appearance on 106 & Park, where she expressed her excitement for an upcoming video shoot. The next day, the production team flew to Miami to begin filming the initial part of the video, which included Aaliyah and her background dance performing in front of a green screen. Aaliyah's boyfriend Dame Dash visited her on the set, accompanied by his son. Later, underwater scenes were filmed in a pool at Florida International University in North Miami. During the shoot, Aaliyah experienced difficulty with a breathing tube, but managed to hold her breath for the scenes. Initially, the plan was to film part of the music video in Miami, but 2 additional locations were scouted, including Jamaica. However, due to the unfavorable weather conditions, the Bahamas, specifically Abaco, was chosen. The crew flew to Marsh Harbor Airport in the Bahamas for the last 3 days of the shooting. During this time, Kevin Taylor, a producer for BET, was tasked with capturing behind-the-scenes footage for an all-access special. However, he was asked not to fly with the group, despite being promised full access. Now, let's dive into a significant amount of the information regarded for the travel agreement and cargo for the Bahamas shoot. The transportation to and from the Bahamas involved coordination between instant producer, Atlantic Flight Group, Sky Limos, and Air Charter. Prophet, on the other hand, was responsible for handling one of the cargo shipments, which consisted of costumes, video cameras, filming equipment, and various luggage. Initially, Prophet arranged for a single plane to pick up the cargo from Opelika Airport, the departure point for everyone. However, Atlantic Flight Group arrived with nearly triple the weight of the equipment, pressuring the Prophet team not to weigh the cargo and instead load it directly onto the aircraft. However, the Prophet team insisted on weighing the cargo before loading it and realizing that 2 more planes would be required to accommodate everything. Meanwhile, the first group of the film crew that had already arrived in the Bahamas noticed that no one was present to receive the cargo. It turned out that the manifest prepared by Instant Productions and Atlanta Flight Group for the pilot directed them to the wrong island in the Bahamas. As a result, they had to fly an additional 120 miles to reach the correct island before the cargo could be moved. The paperwork for customs had to be revised, a necessary step whenever cargo leaves the United States. Consequently, what was supposed to be completed by 10 a.m. on Thursday, August 23rd, was delayed until around 4:30 to 5 p.m. During this time, Aaliyah spent most of the day relaxing, conversating with Kevin, who filmed additional footage on the personal camcorder, and taking a scooter ride while waiting for the cargo to arrive. Unfortunately, Aaliyah's luggage went missing and was not tracked beyond Miami Airport. She was informed that it was most likely taken by someone else. Thankfully, she had her carry-on bag, and her makeup, hair products, and costumes was with Anthony, Eric, and Chris. The beach scene was filmed throughout August 24th, starting at 3 a.m. to capture the sunrise shots. A noticeable change in Aaliyah's aura was observed since arriving in the Bahamas, as her cheerful vibe from Miami had diminished. On August 25th, her last day alive, Aaliyah and her crew members was exhausted, but maintained a brave face as they spent several hours performing the final dance sequence on the yacht. Despite the fatigue, it was a beautiful video shoot, and everyone seemed to enjoy themselves once they found their rhythm. The shoot wrapped up in the afternoon, and it was decided that Aaliyah and several victims would take the early flight back to the United States at around 4:30 p.m., while the rest of the crew stayed behind for more footage and relaxation. This marked the beginning of a confusing, airy, and eventually tragic turn of events. Sky Limos, the charter company responsible for transporting passengers to the Bahamas, was initially scheduled to start bringing people back to the United States on Saturday, August 25th at 10 a.m. However, due to delays with cargo, they was instructed to wait until Sunday, according to the flight plans. All passengers who flew with Sky Limos were supposed to depart with the same company without any changes. However, there was a strong push for someone to have Aaliyah return to Miami on Saturday evening, despite the original plans. Various artists such as Beanie Sigel claimed that Aaliyah label had booked studio time with them, while others, including Jaguar Wright, alleged that Aaliyah was informed of several incidents involving her boyfriend Dame Dash, was urged to quickly return to Miami. However, it remains uncertain whether she was actually informed about the incident, since Aaliyah and Dame couldn't communicate due to the poor reception in the Bahamas. Consequently, if she was told something had happened, she couldn't easily confirm or deny it at the time. There was reports in the past that the supposed luxury resort where they stayed in the Bahamas lacked hot water. Despite seeing others enjoying the pool, Aaliyah herself never entered the water. Additionally, there was plumbing and pest issues at the resort, along with limited cell phone receptions. Coupled with the inconvenience of not having luggage, it's understandable why Aaliyah would have been eager to leave. Regarding the urgency to bring Aaliyah back to Miami, Dame recently mentioned that Lenny Kravitz, who was in the Bahamas at the time, offered his plane for Aaliyah use. Although Aaliyah had a significant fear of flying, she had to overcome it to board the plane. What upset me was the fact that Lenny Kravitz supposedly offered her a jet, but someone else took it instead. You could inquire about this from Hype Williams, but it's worth mentioning. That's not many people speaking openly about it out of respect for Aaliyah memories. Moving on, The flight from Marsh Harbor Airport to Opa-locka Airport in Miami was estimated to take approximately 1 hour. Since Hype wasn't planning to leave until Sunday, they could have taken Aaliyah and her crew back and returned promptly. However, for some reason, Black Hawk International Airways was chosen as a charter company for Aaliyah and her crew on that ill-fated day. Black Hawk, based in Lantana, Florida, was co-founded by the reckless Gilbert Chotkin, who had history of fraud. Previously, their other charter service, Caribbean Express, went bankrupt between 1998 and 2001. Black Hawk has been fined 4 times by the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, for safety violations, failure to comply with maintenance standards, and inadequate pilot testing for substance. Moreover, Black Hawk did not possess a permit to operate commercial charter flights in the Bahamas. The lead investigator for the Civil Aviation Department stated that only Gilbert was authorized by the FAA to fly passengers from Black Hawk. Gilbert was known to be a careless pilot and had a near collision with another aircraft just days before the crash. When confronted about it, his response was dismissive, saying that he didn't hit them, so there was no issue. It seemed that Gilbert and Morales was a problematic duo. Initially, Gilbert was supposed to fly Aaliyah and her crew in a Cessna 404 aircraft, which could seat 11 people and carry up to 4,200 pounds. The plane was filled up by Owen Gasaway, the airport manager in Lantana, and was ready to go. However, for unknown reasons, the decision was made to have Morales, who wasn't authorized by the FAA, pick them up in a Cessna 402B instead. His smaller aircraft only accommodated 7 passengers and already had 115 gallons of fuel on board. Gilbert instructed Owens to add an additional 78 gallons of fuel, adding 462 pounds to the aircraft. This would be Morales' first charter assignment with Black Hawk. He departed from Lantana Airport with an expected arrival time in the Bahamas of 4:30 p.m. He arrived at 6:15 p.m. instead. It's worth noting that the temperatures on that day was extremely high, potentially affecting aircraft performance. For a more detailed analysis, I recommend checking out Disaster Breakdown for a comprehensive breakdown of the aircraft condition. Bahamians pilot Louis Key famously claimed that Aaliyah and her crew argued with Morales about the plane being overweight. However, the pilot gave into their demands and flew despite the dangers. When questioned about why Key didn't intervene, he stated that he believed the plane could still make the 1-hour flight as long as both engines was working. In addition to the excessive baggage, there was also filming equipment on board. Even though the music video crew remained behind and the BET producer had all of the footage. Furthermore, only 7 passengers could be seated, necessitating one of the seats in the cockpit, which was not authorized by the FAA. There was conflicting reports regarding who loaded the luggage. Some accounts mentioned that Morales loaded it himself, while others claimed that the baggage handler loaded the aircraft and advised him that it was too heavy. Aaliyah, who already had fear of small planes, was hesitant to board upon seeing the aircraft. Upon learning about the excessive luggage, she stayed in the car. Allegedly, one of the crew members administered a sleeping pill, and she stayed passed out in the car before being carried onto the plane. It's worth noting that the account surfaced 20 years later, raising questions about the credibility, especially since toxicology reports, which was made public, did not include the presence of any sedative in Aaliyah's system. However, this doesn't definitively prove that it didn't happen. Kingsley Russell, a witness and a teenager at the time, whose family owned a taxi service from the airport, corroborated this version of events. He shared his accounts on YouTube, but it seemed to have been removed, along with other related content. While it's difficult to imagine someone being warned about the excessive weight and still insisting on flying, it's also hard to fathom them wanting to keep their luggage, especially if Aaliyah has already lost hers during transit to the Bahamas. Many pilots have been pressured to fly under unfavorable conditions, but the consequences of refusing to fly seem trivial compared to the potential dangers. Unfortunately, Luis Morales was not in the right state of mind, as he had traces of alcohol and cocaine in his system. Furthermore, being late, he could cut corners by not weighing the plane or the passengers. The aircraft weight capacity was 2,200 pounds, and the investigation revealed that it was carrying 570 pounds of fuel and 804 pounds of baggage. This left only 822 pounds for the pilot and the 8 passengers, roughly averaging 90 pounds per person. Considering Scotty's weight alone was 300 pounds, there was only 65 pounds available per passenger for the remaining 8 individuals. However, Morales didn't weigh anything and neglected to ensure the plane was properly balanced, with the heaviest passenger and equipment placed at the rear of the aircraft. Around 6:45 p.m., the aircraft began to taxi down the runway, even though there was reports of Morales initially encountering difficulty starting one of the engines. Nevertheless, the plane took off and reached an altitude of 60 to 100 feet. However, just 28 seconds into the flight, it abruptly banked left and crashed into a swampy area, bursting into flames approximately 20 feet from the runway. Several witnesses who observed the horrific events immediately contacted the authorities. Unfortunately, the airport fire crew had already left for the night, taking the fire trucks with them, as the Aaliyah plane was the only aircraft scheduled to depart. Volunteer rescue workers quickly rushed to the scene, facing the challenge of navigating knee-high waters in a swampy area. As they approached the wreckage, they were confronted with a devastating sight. The aircraft has broken into pieces and was facing the opposite direction from its takeoff. Many seats were thrown from the plane, and some victims suffered extensive burns, making it difficult to identify them. Tragically, the pilot was found deceased in the cockpit, while Aaliyah's body was discovered approximately 20 meters from the crash site, still strapped in her seat. Reports suggest that she was found in a fetal position. An inquest conducted by Dr. Raju later determined that Aaliyah had succumbed to several burns, a blow to the head, and several shocks. Her weak heart and overwhelming shock she experienced made survival unlikely, even if she had survived the initial crash. Scotty, though injured internally, managed to free himself from the wreckage. He was discovered near the remnants of the fuselage. However, despite efforts to save him, Scotty passed away during a flight to Princess Margaret Hospital in Nassau. Another male victim, severely burned and unrecognizable, was found barely alive but could not communicate coherently. He succumbed to his injuries en route to the clinic. While fans speculated about the victim's identity, it was never officially released out of respect for the family. Aaliyah's close friend, choreographer Fatima, and her stylist, Derek Lee, arrived at the scene to assist with the search and rescue effort after hearing the news of the crash. In the meantime, high wind remained at the resort, while those who couldn't secure a seat on Lenny's jet opted to take a boat to Nassau and catch a commercial flight back to the United States. The wreckage was later moved to a nearby hangar to avoid disturbing other tourists using the Marsh Harbor Airport. The media coverage of the incident sent shockwaves worldwide, prompting questions about the cause of the crash and why Aaliyah in particular was portrayed negatively. Tributes from fans and artists poured in, mourning the loss of a young artist. The investigation into the plane, the pilot, the charter company, and the record label began shortly after the crash. Morales' drug possession should have resulted in a revocation of his pilot license on August 13th, but the FFA was not informed due to a lack of reporting mechanism at the time. Black Hawk Charter Company claims they were unaware of Morales' situation, and Morales did not notify the FFA within the required 60 days prior after the sentencing. Morales' father stated that his son did not have the financial means to lease a $250,000 aircraft and was only paid on a pre-flight basis. As the investigation unfolded, discrepancies unfolded with Gilbert Chacon, the co-founder of Black Hawk, initially claiming that his company was not the legal operator of the flight. However, investigators doubted his story, especially after finding no manifest record of flight logs at Morales' apartment or car. Morales' father also indicated that Gilbert called him after the crash, requesting the contract he had with Morales for insurance purposes. Ultimately, the investigation sought to hold those responsible for the tragic loss of life accountable. The FFA suspended operations of the Black Hawk due to the complete debacle surrounding it. Moreover, an alleged FFA inspector who had conducted Morales' final checkout tragically took his own life on September 15, 2001, and his identity remains undisclosed. The fallout from the incident resulted in Virgin Records and Blackground Records severing ties with each other. Lawsuits ensued, including those mentioned earlier by the families of the victims. The aftermath had far-reaching consequences, affecting individuals such as Loretta Turner of Butler Funeral Homes in Nassau. In an interview with Time magazine in August 2002, Turner revealed that Virgin Records reneged on a verbal agreement to cover the expense of transporting passengers' bodies back to the United States. According to Turner, the Berry executive from Virgin Records instructed her team to expedite the process. Citing Aaliyah's high profile, despite the verbal agreement, Virgin Records refused to honor it since there was no written agreement, leaving Turner with a bill of $68,000. Desperate for reimbursement, she turned to Aaliyah's family, only to find out that they were also waiting for Virgin Records to fulfill the financial obligation. In the end, R&B singer Maxwell stepped up and covered all the remaining funeral expenses without making any public statements about it. His gestures deserve commendations and respect. As we conclude this exploration into the tragic events surrounding Aaliyah's untimely passing, it is important to reflect on the impact she left on the world during her short but remarkable career. Aaliyah's talents, beauty, and charisma captivated audience, making her a beloved figure in music, film, and fashion. Her contribution continues to inspire and influence artists to this day. While we have dived into the surface-level information and examined classified details and conspiracy theories surrounding the crash, it is critical to remember the 9 individuals, including Aaliyah, lost their lives that fateful day. Each person had their own dreams, aspirations, and loved ones who cherished them. It is our hope that by discussing the events that unfolded, we can honor their memory and shed light on the complexity surrounding this tragedy. In the aftermath of the crash, significant changes were implemented in the aviation industry to improve safety standards and prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future.